Every year, August 8th is a powerful day of manifestation. But Lionsgate 2026 is a bit different. So this year, the date carries a special 888 pattern, and just 4 days later, the solar eclipse in Leo adds to the story. So the question really may be not what do I want to draw in, but rather what will receiving it require of me? So by the end of this episode, I will share with you a simple, special spell that you can use to help you answer exactly that question. So merry meet, I'm Aislin. This is Ask Aislin. And today we are here talking about Lionsgate 2026, how the 888 portal is different. So welcome to those who are joining us live. Say hi in the chat. Let us know that you are here. And as always, there is a Q&A at the end of the episode, and you can all of your questions. I will make sure I answer all of those by the end. And let's dive in. We've got a lot to talk about. So we are first going to start by talking about what Lionsgate actually is for those who do not know about the Lionsgate portal. It's a very special time. It occurs every single year. It actually falls very close to Lughnasadh, which in the Witches' Wheel of the Year is our first of the harvest festivals. This is a time that is connected to prosperity and abundance and manifestation. And then we have Lionsgate that also adds to that energy. So we're going to talk about that. So what is Lionsgate? And then we're going to talk about how this year is a little bit different. The numerology is different. It's actually really special. And then the solar eclipse is only going to add to that energy, but it is going to color the way that that energy plays out for us. And so it can be good for us to recognize this before we move forward into this time period. So you can prepare. You will know the right questions to ask. And you'll kind of know what this energy is asking of you. So let's start with what is the Lionsgate portal. So the Lionsgate portal is a modern spiritual observance that is associated with several different things. Number one, the sun is moving through the sign of Leo, so hence why we end up having the name Lionsgate. For those who don't know, the lion is the symbol of the astrological sign Leo. There is also at this time, there is a reappearance of the great star Sirius in the pre-dawn sky. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, what that means. There's also symbolism of the number 88, which is very special in numerology. And there is a connection to manifestation, spiritual insight, and personal transformation. So there's a lot that can get done during the Lionsgate portal. That's why it's such an important time. It's why I wanted to do this special episode. I did an episode on Lionsgate last year, but every year the astrology is a little bit different. And so it's colored differently from one year to the next. Now, it's important for us to remember that there is no traditional pagan Sabbath that is associated with Lionsgate, other than, like I mentioned in the beginning, Lughnasadh, which is our traditional Sabbath, is very much connected through the time that it falls. Also, the Lionsgate is not an ancient holiday. There was no ancient holiday known by this name, though there are, if you look back in historical records, there is this observance of the great star Sirius rising in the sky and then it being linked to important events for different people in different cultures, including the ancient Egyptians. For us, I think it's best to think of this as a modern spiritual observance, and it brings together all of these things I just mentioned: the solar power of Leo, the spiritual significance of the blue star Sirius, and the numerology of the number 8. The Lionsgate portal is marked by the heliacal rising of Sirius at this time, and the first visible appearance of Sirius in the morning sky after a period of invisibility. So, without getting deeply into the astronomy of stars, the movement of stars will appear, and planets also will appear in the sky at certain periods of time throughout the year, and then it will appear as though they've disappeared, and then they will reemerge at different times. So Sirius is always known to kind of reappear near the beginning of August. Its timing will be dependent on your latitude and also on any atmospheric conditions that may be going on. near you. And for this reason, it really makes sense, instead of saying, oh, everything is kind of tied to the rising of this star, makes more sense to me to treat this period of time as a symbolic convergence of all of these factors rather than a precise alignment of planetary bodies. So let's talk about the traditional symbolism of the number 8. So the number 8 carries with it a lot of very positive connotations. There are 8 is connected to material results, so things that are occurring here in the material world, bringing ideas into form. So taking the ideas out of our minds and bringing them into the material world. Personal authority and decision making. So you know, having the ability to decide what you want, what you need, being a personal authority on what you need, and helping you make the decisions that get your needs met. There's a relationship between choices and consequences, so a cause and effect relationship. Number 8 is also about giving and receiving, which I think is very important for us to consider, because that's so much tied to this time of year and the energy of Lughnasadh. Lughnasadh is harvest, but it's also sacrifice, so receiving and giving at the same time. The number 8 is also connected to our power and the responsibility that comes with it. So if you have the power to change your life, change your world, there's also a great responsibility that comes with that. Will you make the right choices? Will you use your power in the best way possible that harms none and creates, goodness for you, but also for the people around you who are affected by it? 8 is also associated with abundance. Sometimes we think, oh, 8 is all about abundance. It's just one of the many things that 8 is associated with. It's really only one expression of that number. 8 is also connected to how we manage the things that we receive. So if you watched last week's episode on Lughnasadh and where prosperity magic comes from, to those who celebrated Lughnasadh in ancient times, it's not just about receiving and getting things. It's also about, well, what do we do with them afterwards? How do we make sure that we manage them properly, and how do we make sure that we protect them? And then also, 8 is associated with whether our choices support what we desire. So we can want a lot of different things. We can desire a lot of different things. But if the choices that we make after we have that desire don't align with that desire, it's going to make it very difficult for us to manifest. So these are kind of all the secret ingredients to manifestation that are contained within the number 8. So, in addition to 8 having its important symbolism, 2026 also creates an additional 8, making this an 888 portal. So I want to explain, because where does the third 8 come from when I say this is the 888 portal this year? So August obviously is the 8th month of the year, and the date of the peak of the Lionsgate portal is said to be on August 8th, so the 8th day of the 8th month. Now, if you take the complete date, 8/8/2026, and you add up all those numbers, so 8 plus 8 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6, if you add all of those numbers up, you will get the number 26. And then when you add 2 plus 6 to reduce the number 26, you will get 8. If you are not great at math, if numbers kind of freak you out, don't worry, just trust me, it reduces to that. But in numerology, we will take larger numbers and we will reduce them into one-digit numbers. And so that's where we're getting the third 8. And that third 8 makes this I think makes this triply an important holiday for us, or an important year to be celebrating Lionsgate. Now, Also, what's kind of interesting is there's also the number, the universal number 1 is also contained in the date 8/8/2026. Because if we take the date 2026 and we add up those digits, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6, we will get 10, and then that reduces to 1. So what does that mean? So this creates an interesting combo between the number 8 and the number 1 that is all activated at the time of this present Lionsgate portal. Like we mentioned earlier, 8 is associated with power and with consequences and with material results, drawing into the material world the things that you want. 1 is associated with initiation, independence, and beginnings of a new, kind of like a new cycle, right? So within this 8 energy is asking us, how are you going to use your power? What are you going to draw in with your power? What are you going to manifest? And the 1 energy asks you, what are you ready to begin? Right? So there's a big, there's a big kind of rebirth that can happen, I think, during this 8/8/8 portal. So together they point to a beginning, but also a beginning that requires us to participate more actively in our lives. So not just have the desire and say it or speak it out loud and then kind of wait for it to happen, but what are you going to do next, right? What are you going to do after you have that desire? So here's a good reflection question for you. I'd love for you to share this in the chat if you feel called to. Where in your life are you being invited to make a decision instead of continuing to wait for circumstances to decide for you? Okay, so I'll repeat that again. Where in your life are you being invited to make a decision instead of continuing to wait for circumstances to decide for you? Right? So that's the power of the 8 and the power of the 1 together in Lionsgate 2026. Now, I think it's important to remember this doesn't mean that we control everything. So not everything that happens to us is a direct result of what we have done or the energy that we have used, or either consciously or unconsciously to create our lives. So not everything is under our control. But we can recognize the choices that genuinely do belong to us. And there are many, and probably more than we realize. And then we can become more intentional about those choices and what we do, and how we're going to bring this energy forward into our lives. So I'm going to talk next about something else happening. So I mentioned this at the very beginning of the episode. There's also a solar eclipse that is going to follow 8/8 by 4 days and still actually occurs during the Lionsgate portal. It will also color the energy of this Lionsgate. So I just think this Lionsgate is so exciting. That's why I wanted to, even though I did the episode last year, I wanted to do another one this year because it just feels like really exciting energy. And I think if you understand how to use it and you do so intentionally, you could really help to draw in some really big and positive changes in your life. So welcome to Andrea and Cersei. If anyone else is here, say hi in the chat. Your comments during the live video actually helps us so much. It helps us get this out to more people while we're feeding live. Otherwise, the algorithm's like, this isn't very interesting. So if you are here live, say hi in the chat. Let us know, have you ever celebrated Lionsgate Portal before? Or is this the first time you're hearing about it? How do you feel about the numerology that I just talked about? And what are you ready to manifest in your life? We'd love to hear from you. Okay, so let us talk about how the Leo solar eclipse changes the message of this particular Lionsgate portal. So there is a solar eclipse that is occurring on August 12th. So it would be 4 days after August 8th, which is considered the peak of the Lionsgate portal. Now, this is a total solar eclipse. Totality, though, will only be visible in some certain areas of the world. So there will be some totality visible in parts of Greenland, Iceland, Russia, Spain, and Portugal. There may be other areas, but that's what I got off of NASA's website. A partial solar eclipse may be visible in parts of the northern US and Canada. I mentioned that because the majority of our viewers are from North America. So in Mexico, no one's going to see it down there. I'm in LA, so we're not going to be able to visibly see it here. But there are parts of very northern Canada and the northern parts of the US that may see a partial eclipse. So let's talk about what does the eclipse mean symbolically. So first of all, I would like to dispel any misconceptions about eclipses. So I have heard over the past few years, since I've started streaming live, which is like 4 or 5 years, I've heard people on Witch Talk and different places. They urge people, do not do anything during a solar eclipse. It's bad for you. It's going to have terrible consequences. And I have done a very deep dive into modern pagan authors and even further beyond that. And there is like literally like 1 or 2 references to anyone even talking about being afraid of an eclipse. So I think this is some kind of strange modern thing that's occurred on Witch Talk, and people are entitled to their own beliefs, but I'm just here to tell you that there's no literature that substantiates or supports this idea that you should be afraid of an eclipse and you should like back away from your magic during that time. What I will tell you is that eclipses can feel like there's a lot of energy, and that energy can feel amplifying to people. And so if you feel really amped up, or if you're anxious, or you're kind of feeling this like vibration, what it may mean is that you need to just do some better grounding. So if you are somebody who already is very sensitive energy and you start to feel that, just make sure to do some grounding, deep breath work, do some more extra self-care. But I would not shy away from magic that you want to do. I would not feel scared of a solar eclipse. I think that's crazy. That's a crazy idea that has been planted in people's minds. I've been practicing witchcraft for over 30 years, and it was the first time of me ever hearing about this taboo of solar eclipses and lunar eclipses is just a couple of years ago. So this is a modern thing that has been created by people. So I'm just here to tell you that it is safe to practice magic on solar eclipses. Just be aware of your energy, and lunar eclipses for that matter, but be aware of your energy and ground and center yourself, and get clear on your intentions. The eclipse will obfuscate or can kind of like just like an eclipse does, it covers over one body for a temporary amount of time. So it may cloud our ability to see during that moment. I personally don't really think that. I just think it asks us to go a little more internally with our energy. I think it's a good time to do some shadow work. So let me get back to like what I had planned for the episode, but I did want to mention this aside that I personally don't believe there's anything to be afraid of with eclipses. Now, during a regular new moon, there is the intentions that are connected to a regular new moon is beginning something, planting the seeds of intention. So we often tell people like set your intentions on a new moon, kind of work your energy up towards the full moon, so maybe release that energy out, do some kind of a spell during that time. And then during the second half of the lunar cycle, your energy is more about going internally, doing your shadow work. Maybe you're doing some releasings and things like that. The eclipse, like I said, doesn't automatically bring in chaos. It's not automatically taboo. It just means that not all of the information may be revealed at that time. And I think that's a special thing for us to recognize as we move into this Lionsgate portal, which is followed by the eclipse. Changes may develop over time, so the energy may move a little bit more slowly because of the eclipse. There may be a minor disruption to a usual pattern. It would be very minor. And this is why I say this is a good time for reflection. So just kind of like during a Mercury retrograde or a Saturn retrograde or something like Saturn retrograde that's going on right now. It's not bad. It's just different, right? It's a different pattern. It changes the usual pattern of energy, and it invites you to do reflection. That's why retrogrades are so good for reflection, and that's also why eclipses are as well. So how is this eclipse going to affect the energy of the Lionsgate 2026? Well, we may be beginning something without actually seeing its complete shape just yet, and that's okay. So the eclipse may kind of cloud our ability to see the final destination, and we can still begin, right? And it's okay to not know. It's okay to set the intention to start moving forward and not seeing every single detail in that moment. There is a difference between choosing a direction and then trying to control every detail of how that direction unfolds. And I think that's what the eclipse also is inviting us to consider. What do you want to manifest? What is your desire? And are you okay with not knowing all the steps? Are you okay with just seeing the one step in front of you and being okay with not seeing the next 19 and just walk one foot in front of another until you finally get to that destination? So the Lionsgate portal encourages you to identify what you feel drawn to. It's all about what you want, what do you desire, what do you manifest, what you're ready to do differently, and what you are willing to leave open, right? That is what this Lionsgate portal is asking of us in 2026. It helps us to name our desire. The Lionsgate portal itself helps us to name that desire. And then the eclipse reminds us that we may not know the form it will take yet. And I think that like we start to really develop our skill at manifestation when we're okay with setting the intention and then leaving some room for the way it manifests to just simply unfold. Christy May. Let me know. I think there might have been a minor disruption in the microphone. I hope you guys heard that, but I've just reopened it. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the microphone today. So if anybody could let me know in the chat that you're still able to hear me, that would help great. But I have reopened the microphone, so it should be okay. Christy said this is the first time that she is going to be celebrating or working with the Lionsgate. So Debbie said, wouldn't that allow you to remain in the present more, only seeing one step at a time? Yeah, in fact, and then that is really where we want to try to be, right? Because we've been talking about grounding in previous episodes. Our Shadow Seekers membership has spent the entire last month talking about grounding. And, being grounded is about being in the present time, like having the intention, but not worrying about the past and all the things that have happened to us that may cloud our ability to receive the intention, or worrying about, oh, will this work because it didn't work in the past. Like that's all the past stuff, right? And then the future is about controlling how it manifests. Oh my God, will it manifest? But Debbie's right, staying right. I think this eclipse very much can help us stay in the present moment and not in those other places, which may detract or pull our energy away from the true thing that we're trying to manifest. Okay, sounds like people can hear me. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so Andrea said, I've been doing the ritual for Lionsgate with Shadow Seekers group for the last 2 weeks. And she said, I can't wait to do the one on Saturday. And I will mention at the end of this, I will let you guys know that our Shadow Seekers membership and our coven are going to be doing a special Lionsgate ritual on Saturday. And for those who are not part of those groups, we would love for you to join us. We will I'll drop a link at the end of the episode in case you would like to join us. Okay, so let's go forward now, and we are going to talk about some of the themes of the Lionsgate portal. I think that the theme of 2026 Lionsgate portal. So I think these themes are desire, capacity, and choice. So we're going to go one by one through those, and then I'm going to share with you a simple spell that you can do that will help you to really tap into the special energy of Lionsgate 2026. So let's start with the theme of desire. So I think that desire is that's the actual intention, right? So what are you actually calling in? What do you actually desire? So I encourage you to think about one thing that you would like this Lionsgate portal to be about. It's not all things. It's not 8 different unrelated things. I believe that the way magic can work in many different ways, but I believe that magic often will work best when we have sort of a direct line towards the thing that we are desiring, and not having like 8 different lines, like I want this and this and this and this and this. I want this thing, and I'm putting my energy toward it. I may not know how I'm going to get it. I may not know every single step along the way, but I'm focusing on this one desire. So we don't want to be focused on a job, a relationship, you know, a getting into school, like all these things all at once. You want to try to focus on one thing, put your intention and energy towards that, and you can always come back and you can do manifestation around the other thing. So if you feel called to, share in the chat, what is your one desire for the Lion's Gate? So if you're kind of uncertain what that could be, here are some questions that might help you. What do I want to experience more of? What feels ready to change in my life? Is this desire truly mine? So that's an important one to think about too. Sometimes you'll have a desire and you're very clear, that's mine. And sometimes you will have a desire and it actually may be feeding from other people. It's like their desire for you. So we just want to make sure this is your desire and not other people's desire for you. And another question to think about, am I pursuing it because I want it or because I want to prove something? I think that like desire that comes from us internally and not because of like external things is the most powerful intention for us. What is your absolute heart's desire? That's what I would put the energy toward. So you may know that you want meaningful work without knowing the exact job. So your desire can be like, maybe you're in a job right now and you don't like it, and you want a job that makes you feel, um, makes you feel like what you're doing is important or is very meaningful to you or stirs something inside of you. You don't have to know that exact job to have that be your intention. Your intention is, I want meaningful work. You may know that you want love that is reciprocated. You don't have to know the person. It doesn't have to be directed toward a specific person. You may know that you want greater financial freedom, and you don't have to know every single step of how you will get there. So just kind of think about, what is my kind of burning desire, and let's have that be our intention for the Lion's Gate. So if anybody would like to share that with us in the chat. Christy said, strength to end a marriage. Okay, so very good intention and very, clear. Exactly. It's her intention. It's her desire. So if anybody feels called to share your desire for the Lion's Gate, and then we're going to talk about what do we do next. So what is the next kind of step? Well, it's the capacity. So every desire that we have is going to ask something of us. So the way I believe that magic works isn't that we just put a wish out to the universe and then we hope and we pray. That's kind of how prayer works. It's people pray for this thing that they want. And to me, spell work and manifestation is proactive prayer. It requires us to do the steps in the mundane world that will lead to the thing that we desire. So capacity is about what would receiving this ask of you. And I think that this is really the heart of the manifestation. So sometimes we focus on the thing that we are trying to attract, and we never really ask ourselves whether our beliefs that we are carrying or the boundaries that we've created or the choices that we make support the thing once it arrives. So like this, is in many ways, this echoes some of the other episodes I've been talking about in the past like month or two. Act in alignment with what you are becoming, right? One of the laws of spiritual, or the premises of spiritual magnetism. It's like, once you get the thing, like, is your life set up to receive the thing? And if not, what would you have to change in your life in order to set your life up to be that way? So here's a couple of different examples. So let's say that a person, let's say their desire is that they want greater income. It's a great desire, right? They don't need to know every single step of how they're going to get that income, but it may require them to do some things in the mundane world. For example, if they are somebody who runs a business, they need to charge prices that are appropriate to what they're giving. So don't overgive, like many of us do. Don't undercharge for your work, like many people who run spiritual businesses do. Let's say a person, wants greater income, and maybe they don't like the job that they're in right now, so they want to be following up on other opportunities that are presented to them, telling other people, hey, look, I'm looking for a job if you hear of anything. Those are little mundane steps that people could make. Maybe it's less about actually, maybe the money coming in isn't the problem. Maybe it's the money going out is the problem. And the person needs to actually manage their money more consciously, and just be aware of what they're spending money on, because money can flow like water, and especially in this economy, right? Just being more conscious of what we're spending our money on. So those are kind of concrete examples of how somebody who has that desire for greater income or greater wealth could actually take the steps. What that would be the capacity to receive that is what they have to do, what they have to change in their lives or set up in their lives in order to have the capacity to receive the thing that they want. Let's say a person is, going back to the example of the relationship. So the person wants a reciprocal relationship. So they need to be able to say what they need. Don't carry the entire emotional burden all on their own, right? Recognizing when somebody is unable or unwilling to meet them. Those would be things that they might think about in a reciprocal relationship. And then if a person is actually trying to manifest a relationship, maybe they're not in one, then they actually need to take the steps to actually get one, to meet people, right? Putting yourself out there, putting up a listing on a dating website, going to meetups, going to just going out and being places and not staying in, because it's hard to meet someone when you're not putting yourself out there. Let's say that a person wants to increase their intuition, and that is their desire for the Lionsgate portal. So here would be some ideas of what they would do to have the capacity to actually increase their intuition. Spend less time asking everybody else what they think. Try to live more intuitively. Don't ask everybody their opinions. Really get clear on what yours are, or it's going to be very hard to develop your intuition. Allowing there to be uncertainty without immediately searching for reassurances. So sometimes people will pull a card and they don't immediately know what it means, and they start asking people and freaking out and looking it up, and just sit with it for a couple of days. And that's actually how intuition works. Intuition can't be rushed. So see a person who's like kind of living that way, they say they want to be intuitive, but their actions aren't aligned with the intuition they desire. So they got to go slower, they got to flow, they got to be like water, and water moves at its own pace. So also acting on small pieces of guidance without demanding undeniable proof. So sometimes we will see a sign and then we're like, I demand more. And then we want another sign and another sign and another sign. How about let's be okay with the one sign and kind of act on it and see, let it unfold. Otherwise, we're just basically stifling our ability to ever develop our intuition. So this is all about the capacity. Are we setting up our lives for the thing that we desire, or are we instead stifling the thing we are desiring because we haven't set up our lives to be spacious enough to receive it? So if any of that resonates with you, let me know. I know I really resonate with the one about intuition. Like I have had like crazy signs about something that I have wanted to manifest for some time. And in fact, I even said, if this is manifesting, let me see this sign. And literally, it popped in front of my face, and I still demanded more signs. So that is what I'm talking about. Like, if we really want to become intuitive, if we really want to open our capacity to relationships or wealth or all these things that we want, we've got to be living that way too. So here's some of other people are kind of putting in their intentions for Lionsgate. So Debbie said, I desire connections that enrich me and that support me. Cersei says, greater financial freedom. Debbie said, my problem has been that I try to reach out to people and it's not a good choice. So I tend to not want to ask them for help or support or even conversation. So, I mean, that can be tricky. It's possible that it's not the right type of people. When we are kind of like when we start to align our energy, honestly, the people around us will sometimes change. I'm not saying that's like positively what it could be, but or what it is, but it is possible that like, and I feel too that like if we're reaching out for people, um, and they're not able to be there for us, again, it's kind of a sign that they're not really the right people for this point in our lives. And it doesn't mean we have to like get rid of them as friends, but kind of be kind of figuring out who the people in our lives are that have more of that capacity as well. I do know as I've worked on my own spiritual development, my friendships have changed, and there are people that I was friends with for a long time that I'm not as close to anymore because it's just a different level that we're on. And then there's been new people who have entered my life, and they tend to be very spiritual people in very different walks of life, but they tend to have this kind of like spiritual desire, and that's how I know like they're like sort of more aligned with my energy. So let's talk about the third kind of theme here is choice. Okay, so what can you do now? So you've got your desire. You're kind of asking yourself, how could I like set up my life to be more, have more capacity for that desire? And then what can I actually do? So that's the choice here. So this kind of brings it back to that idea from the beginning of the episode of universal year one, right? It's new beginnings, it's rebirth, it's an opportunity has arrived for all of us. So, what is one choice that you could make before August 12th, before that August 12th eclipse comes, that demonstrates your willingness to participate in this new chapter of your life? So, what is one choice that you could do? And so I, have been working to. I really want to get pregnant this year, and so I'm really trying to like live like I'm already pregnant. It's something I talked about in some of the other episodes, but like eating the right foods. Like so, in fact, it even comes down to like what I consume in the news and what I consume on social media. And so asking myself, like when I'm scrolling, would I want my child to read this? And if not, I'm going to pass over that thing right now. Sometimes that's unavoidable. It can be unavoidable to avoid all bad news, but I can certainly make some choices. Would I want my child or my inner child to be reading this? And I'm just going to scroll right on past. So those choices can be just the things that we are setting ourselves up for that person that we're already, we're already that person. So what is the person who wants financial freedom, who has financial freedom? What are they doing right now, right? And those are the things we set up now. For the person who wants a relationship or is already in a relationship, what are they doing, right? So the action that we take here, we want it to be specific. So like I said, it's very specific what I'm doing. I'm eating balanced meals. I'm not skipping breakfast. Even if I'm not hungry, I'm eating. And I'm doing something very specific with my scroll. I'm skipping news stories that I wouldn't want my child or my inner child to read. So what is a choice that you could make, or what is an action that you could take right now that would be very specific, within your control, small enough to complete. It doesn't have to be you don't have to uproot your whole life and turn it upside down. It's just something that we can complete before the 12th, even put it into place now, and connect it directly to the intention that you want. So let's see some examples. So like a person who is looking for work, send out an application, just put one in. I work with a student right now and we're trying to find her a job, and she found a job as like a food runner, but she has a degree in marine bio that we've worked very hard to get. And so she took the job so that she would have some money now. And now we meet every week and we send out one application. And so it's just something like, it may take some time to find the dream job. But she took what she could in the meantime, so she gets some financial freedom from that, and then she is, sending out her one application. That's her. That doesn't have to be the example for everybody. I'm just giving you examples. So let's say a person needs to set up a boundary with somebody. Well, have the conversation with that person about how you're feeling. A person wants to write. They want to write their book finally. Write the first page, or make the title, or make the title picture. Go on Canva or something and make the cover. It just needs to be one final step. A person could review their finances and kind of look at, like, where is my money going? What's coming in, what's going out, and just get clear on what that is. A lot of people don't review their finances, right? Decline an obligation. Maybe a person wants to really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, be mindful of their energy and keep their energy and not give it away to everybody else. So decline an obligation. Maybe rest and relaxation or peace or calm is their intention. Decline an obligation that you might have normally said yes to. Set aside time for your spiritual practice. If that's the thing that the person wants as their desire, set aside 5 minutes in the next week and do it. So your manifestation practice will become more powerful, and when it changes, what we do after we blow the candle out or we do the spell, it's what we do next that is just as important. So I want to share with you now a spell that you can do, and you can do it on 888 if you would like. You could do it, to me, honestly, you can do it anytime. I would say in the next week, but 888 is a good time to do it as well. It's quick. It will only take you maybe 10 or so minutes, some reflection. So we're going to keep it very simple. I like to keep spells really simple. So what I recommend doing for this spell is you're going to get a candle. I recommend gold, yellow, or orange, so it's connecting to that kind of Leo sun. But if you cannot find those colors, just get white. White is always a good swap for any other colors. Get paper and something that you can write with. And then optionally, if you want to kind of decorate your space, you can get some symbols that are connected to the sun or to Sirius. So Sirius is a star, so you could get you could draw a star, or you could get symbols that are things that are shaped like stars, things that are shaped like suns, or draw the sun image. Oftentimes the symbol of the sun is just a circle with a dot in the middle. That's what it is in astrology. You can also get symbols that are connected to Leo, with like lions or something like that. You can decorate your space. You don't need to. Like I said, 8/8 is a good time to perform the spell, but I feel like any time kind of in the Lionsgate portal. The Lionsgate portal essentially kind of closes as we get to 8/11, 8/12 at the eclipse. So anytime in between there. Okay, so what are we going to do? So you're going to light the candle first, and you're going to take 8 slow breaths. And by the way, too, so for anybody who wants the written out version of this spell, if you're not on our mailing list, I'm going to drop a link in the chat in just a moment for our mailing list. And I'm going to send out our newsletter this week, and it's actually going to have the video, this recording, but it will also have this spell written out for anybody who wants it. So if you're not on the mailing, if you're already on the mailing list, you're going to get it. But if you're not on the mailing list, make sure to sign up. And if you're watching on YouTube, then you can you'll find the link for the mailing list in the description of the video. Okay, so you're going to take 8 slow breaths after you light the candle. And with each exhale, see if you could just release a little of that pressure that you might have surrounding the intention or knowing exactly how it's going to play out and unfold. So remember, that's the energy we're letting go of for the eclipse. Is we have this intention, we kind of see the first step, which is the choice we're making. We may not see the rest of it, and we're okay with that. So we're just letting go of that as we take these 8 breaths. And with each breath, you are going to allow your intention to return to your desire. So, like as you inhale, you'll think of the desire. And as you exhale, you're going to release the control. And you're just going to do that 8 times. Okay? And then what you're going to do is you are going to take your piece of paper and you're going to divide it into 3 sections. So, however you want to do that, if you want to turn it like longwise and do it that way, or, vertically, you can do it that way, but you're going to divide it into 3 sections. And in the first section, you're just going to write what I call in, and then you're going to write your clear intention. So if you're on the live here or you're watching in replay and you've already like put in the chat your intention, you can use that one, or you can refine it if you want to. And so here would be some examples. You want to make it very clear. I call in work that values my abilities. I call in greater trust in my intuition. These are just examples. I call in relationships that are based on mutual care or reciprocity. And those can be romantic or friendship-based relationships. I call in the resources that I need to support me, So you're going to just write that down, what I call in. Okay, so that is your first section, what I call in, and that's your intention. Then in your second section of the paper, you're going to write what it asks of me, and that is going to be the part about the capacity. So write in one quality, one boundary you could create, one change that you could make right now in the next couple of days that would help you to support the intention. So here's some examples. So it asks me, so you kind of want to start it with, it asks me, and then you're going to write that down. It asks me to stop undervaluing my work or undercharging. It asks me to listen before seeking outside confirmation, right? For the person who's working on their intuition. It asks me to communicate my needs. It asks me to make decisions based on my priorities. And yours will look different. Whatever your desire is, it's going to have some kind of an ask tied to it. Okay, so that's your second section, what it asks of me. And then for your third section, it's what I choose now, and then that is the choice. That is the next step. So you're going to write one action that you're going to complete before August 12th, before the eclipse. And remember too that this isn't like a bargain. Oh, like if I do this, I'll get this. It's just you are trying to align your energy to the Lionsgate portal of 2026, to the eclipse, to your intention. So you are just going to write down the action that you're going to take. Okay? Make it simple, make it easy to do. One simple step often leads to the next one and the next one and the next one. We don't have to see it yet. You just have to see the first step. And then I recommend speaking the spell out loud. I really believe that, the throat chakra is one of your chakras of creation. Your sacral chakra is the other one. But the throat, when we speak things out loud, when we intone, when we sing, when we chant, it just activates the throat. And so we're going to speak this spell. So by the fire of Leo and the light of Sirius, I open the gate between desire and action. By the fire of Leo and the light of Sirius, I open the gate between desire and action. And then this is the part you're going to write out. I welcome blank. That's your desire, what you wrote in the first section. I release blank. Right? That's your capacity, or whatever you are letting go of, right? So you create the capacity, and I now choose, and then that's your next step. And then if you would like, you can say this: I do not need to control every step. I need only meet the path as it opens before me. By the power of 8, may what serves my path come forward, and may I have the courage to meet it. So mote it be. All right, so like I said, if you want a written out version of this spell, and by the way too, these words, like you don't have to say these words word for word. The bulk of the spell are the 3 things. It's like, what is my intention? what am I doing to create the capacity for it? That could also mean releasing something, and what am I choosing to move forward with? That's the bulk of this. The words can be your own. This is just a template. It's just an example. If you do want the words for this, make sure you're on the mailing list, and that will be sent out with the newsletter this week. And so mote it be. And then what I would recommend doing next is I'd seal this intention in some way. So you've already got your candle lit. I would recommend folding the paper toward you. If you want to bring something in, you fold it toward you. If you want to release something, you fold it away from you. And then what you can do is you can either burn the paper if you would like. Some people like to do that and kind of send their intentions to the universe. Other people like to fold it and just place it under the candle. You can absolutely do that. And then I would let the candle burn all the way down, or you can let it burn down over the course of several days. And then, after, if you did not burn the piece of paper, if you kept it with you after the eclipse, you then can revisit it. You can ask yourself, does this intention still feel true to me? Sometimes it will change. And maybe you will want to edit it and tweak it a little bit, maybe after the eclipse has closed. Has anything unexpected been revealed? I think it's always good for you to sort of keep a record of what happens with your spells. So like, what signs or synchronicities did I see after I did it? Did something unexpected come of the spell? Write that down. This is important information. Or is there a different action that I now understand I need to take? So maybe the action you chose to take was good, but there's a different one you now need to take. And now you realize that, write that down too as notes for this spell. It just helps you in the future, kind of start to understand how your spell work works. So, remember, so kind of in closing here, Lionsgate 2026 is different. Like I said, it does create an 888 pattern because of the year. Well, 2026 itself also carries the number 1 with it, which is the energy of a new beginning. We are approaching this eclipse in Leo. It reminds us that we may be choosing a direction without every single detail having to be revealed, and being okay with that energy, right? And then at the very heart of our deeper work and our manifestation, it's not just naming what we want and what we desire. It's also kind of examining our lives and seeing, like, have I created the capacity in my life to have this thing? And then what is the choice that I can make that I will take that will help me meet it? So I hope that helps. And if here's kind of an engagement question for you too, or a reflection question. You can share this in the chat if you feel called to. You can journal on it. You can pull some cards around it. But what is the thing that may be standing in your way from what you desire? That could be something also to think about. And so, like, the spell talks about a release, and then that could be something that you let go of too. Because we also have the new moon on August 12th is going to be preceded by a dark moon on August 11th, and that is a good time for you to let go of anything that you have felt may be in the way of drawing in what you desire. Okay, so I am going to now move into the Q&A. I have a couple of questions that were left for me I'd like to answer quickly. I'd also like to tell you what's coming up. Let me start with that. And if anybody's live, put your questions. If you haven't already, put your questions in the chat. I'm happy to answer anything related to witchcraft, shadow work, energy work. It doesn't have to be necessarily related to the 888 portal. So what is coming up? Well, as we mentioned earlier, we do have our Coven of Midnight's Flame, along with Body, Mind, Witchcraft. We are presenting a Lughnasadh Lionsgate portal prosperity ritual on this Saturday, 8/8/2026, at the very peak of the Lionsgate portal. So if you would like to come and celebrate with us, we would love for you to join us. Now remember, if you are in Shadow Seekers, your ticket is part of your membership, and of course if you are in the Coven, you're part of the ritual as well. But if you're not part of either of those groups, we have tickets that you can buy by donation, And I'm going to put a link in the chat here for anybody who would like to get a ticket. And you can go to this website, and it's on Eventbrite, and you can read about what the ritual is going to be about. I'm really excited for this ritual. We are going to be working with Ganesha, the remover of obstacles. So that's going to kind of open up the ritual. He's going to clear the pathway for us, not only to access Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, who we'll call in next, but also to kind of clear the pathway, any obstacles that may be in your way of manifesting that prosperity. And then from there, we are going to do a very special money magic spell. I've taught this spell like 2 years ago, I think. This spell I've used personally to draw in interesting amounts of wealth, very unexpected at times. I used it before I launched one of my courses and was able to bring in a good amount of money during that launch. And I've also used this spell just to bring in unusual amounts of money that I wasn't expecting through good things. So I'm going to be teaching you that spell, and we're going to all do it together. And there will be, for anybody who signs up for the ritual, you will receive an email that will have a list of things to gather. Most of these things are things that you just have lying around your house. And you will gather those things before the ritual, and then we'll all do the spell together. And then after that, I'm going to teach. Actually, I think it's before we do the spell or after it. I can't remember which side of it I'm going to do this. I'm going to teach you a manifestation practice using energy that you can use anytime after the ritual to tap into the energy of abundance. It will seal in the practice that we're going to do. It's going to seal in the energy of the spell, but it's also something you can do to carry that energy forward with you out after the ritual is over. So we hope that you will join us. Again, you'll find that link in the chat here if you're live, and then if you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be down in the comments. And join us. If you have any questions about it, let me know. After that, on 8/11, so next week, 8/11, I'm going to be taking the week off. That is actually one of the choices I am making to align my energy towards my desire. I'm going to be taking that week off before all my students start coming back in the fall, just to have some space. And then on 8/18, I'm going to be back with a brand new episode. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do the episode on the triple goddess first, or I'm planning to do an episode on the sacrifice of Tialtu and sort of like overgiving of empaths. So that episode, it's going to be all tied into her myth. It's going to be a really cool episode. So if I don't do that one on 8/18, I'll do that one on 8/25. But that gives you a taste of what is coming up. Now, let me go to 2 quick questions I have that were sent to me, and then if there's anything in the chat, I will return to that as well. So Debbie had asked a question: would you feel a certain way during the cycle? Should you feel a certain way during the cycles of the moon? If so, if you don't, will this create an imbalance? So I think it's a very good question. I've been asked this question before. I think that we should always be careful with the word should. I don't think there's anything that people should ever do when it comes to magic. We don't practice, at least I don't teach high magic or anything like that. And I think we teach intuitive magic here. I think that when it comes to cycling with the moon and the energies of the lunar cycles, I think that the best thing a person could absolutely do is to keep a 3-month lunar journal. And it's very simple, it's very quick, it takes you 1 minute a day to do it. You don't have to fill it out every single day, but I would do it on most days, because the more information you have, the better you'll be able to track your energy. And so what you will do is every day, you will just write down a couple of words about how you're feeling physically, emotionally, and energetically. And mentally, you can add that in too. So spiritually, energetically, mentally, and emotionally, physically. Just basically write it down how you're feeling. You're also going to write down what the phase of the moon is in. So you will need to get a lunar tracker, and I can post in the chat. I can post a link of one that I like, and you can just look it up. You'll be able to see what phase the moon is in on that day. And then you are going to track that. So you're going to start to see as the moon changes phase, how does your energy change? So some people feel really have a lot of energy on the full moon, and some people are really, really tired. But this starts to show you how your energy is actually moving through the cycles. And then what I would recommend for somebody who's interested, if this is not of interest to you, then you can disregard it. But if you would like to sort of understand how the cycles move, I would recommend taking at least one cycle where you actually observe the different points of the main points of the cycle. So, when you get to the full moon, you do some kind of a full moon ritual or something where you set an intention, right? And then as you move into the wax or waning half of the cycle, you start to do your releasing work. You can do that on the dark moon. You get to the new moon, you set an intention. As you and then as you move up through the waxing half of the cycle to the full moon, you sort of like work towards that intention, and then at the full moon you do your ritual, and you try to like kind of follow through the cycle. And it can sometimes help people feel more connected to it. But what I would say is, to be a witch, to do witchcraft, you don't necessarily have to be connected to the cycles of the moon or even work with them. There are plenty of witches who don't. There are a lot that do, which is why we talk about it a lot, but there are plenty that don't. So just know that there's no way that one should feel. But if you want to work with the moon more, that these would be my recommendations. Kelly said, I was thinking of working with Hecate, but I don't want to start something I might regret. How do I stay safe? So my first question would be, what are your fears about working with Hecate? Are they specific to Hecate, or are they just a general fear of working with a pagan deity? So without all the context, I can only answer the question so far. But I think that there are sometimes I've had other people in the past write to me, and they're like, I want to work with this deity, but I'm how do I do it safely, or I'm afraid. In my experience of working with Christian deities for the first like 19 years of my life, and then or 18 years of my life or whatever, and then moving into my pagan life, I mean, I've worked with many deities. I've led people through rituals with many deities. Some I personally work with, some I've only kind of led people to work with. I found the vast majority of these deities to be very accessible, very open. It's if you want to work with a deity, the best thing you can do is just start the conversation. So create a little space for them. If you don't have a lot of space, if you don't have a dedicated altar, just take a top of your bookcase, put a little like cloth on it, put a candle there, and then leave an offering for them. And it can be as simple as a bowl of water, or some coins that you found, or something like that. To work specifically with a deity, a specific deity, I would just start to do some research on them, read their myths, kind of understand who they are, what they're about. That also will start to inform you what kind of offerings that they like. Hecate is tied to like dogs, so there's like that imagery. She's the goddess of the crossroads, so you can even draw like a picture of the crossroads. People go to the crossroads to leave offerings for her. Sometimes people will be a little bit afraid because like her connotation to the underworld, she's a psychopomp, which means she helps to lead those who have newly died through the veils and into the underworld. But the vast majority of people who've worked with her find her like she has many forms. She's a mother, she's maiden, mother, and crone all in one. She's a kind mother for those who need a mothering figure. She's a powerful warrior who, for those who need that energy. She is the kindly, wise grandmother for those who, need the wisdom of someone who's more experienced than them. So I feel like, I think what I would do for you is do a little bit of shadow work around where your fears come from. That can help you get you some clarity. But just know she's a goddess that many witches have worked with. I've never heard of anybody say anything bad about her, and I've personally called her in multiple rituals. So I hope that helps a little bit, and let us know how it ends up working. Also, if you are you want to know more about how other people work with her, just post a general post in the group, and there's a lot of Hecate dedicants in this group, and they will, or devotees in this group, and they will offer how they work with her too. All right, I'm just going to go back to the chat and see if there's anything that I missed. So I don't really see any other questions here, but if I missed anything, I always go back afterwards and I will answer anything I've missed. So we're wrapping up now. Leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in this episode. It just helps us get this out to more people. Make sure to subscribe. Like I said earlier, I mentioned I was going to drop the link for the mailing list in the chat. So if you are not on our mailing list already but would like to be, go ahead and you can sign up here. And this will give you'll get sent a copy of The Witch's Guide to Shadow Work for free. And then you're just enrolled on our newsletter. You'll get that every week that has a copy of this replay, plus tips on witchcraft, shadow work, and energy work I share every week. Plus you'll get invitations to events like our rituals and things like that. And make sure to subscribe to our Body, Mind, Witchcraft YouTube channel. And we are trying to get monetized, and every view and every subscriber tremendously helps us. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Tap into the energy of the 888 portal. It's going to be big this year. Join us on Saturday for our Lughnasadh Lionsgate portal. We'd love to have you. And until next time, blessed be.